Ladies and gentlemen, let us turn our attention to a moment that has sparked conversations far beyond the concert stage. Beyoncé Knowles-Carter, one of the most influential artists of our time, stepped into the Paris spotlight wearing a shirt that reignited historical debate. During her Juneteenth performance in the heart of France, Beyoncé wore a Buffalo Soldiers t-shirt. A simple garment, yet one with deep and complicated roots in American history. The Buffalo Soldiers were African American men who served in the U.S. Army after the Civil War. These soldiers helped shape the American West, but their story is not one of simple heroism. They built roads and infrastructure. They protected settlers. They fought in wars abroad. And they also fought indigenous nations resisting U.S. expansion. On the back of Beyoncé's shirt was a lengthy passage describing these soldiers, adversaries. Among them were warring Indians, bandits, and Mexican revolutionaries. The words, enemies of peace, order, and settlement, struck a nerve. They raised the question, peace for whom? Across social media, fans and critics reacted quickly. One voice pointed out the painful irony. Beyoncé wearing a Buffalo Soldiers shirt, an American Army unit comprised exclusively of African Americans that helped European and white American colonists fight back Native Americans and seize control of their land, is not the serve she thinks it is. Another asked bluntly, "Girl, why I wake up and see Beyoncé calling Native Americans defending their home, enemies of peace." But some defended the choice, seeing not an endorsement of violence, but a reflection of a complex truth. Beyoncé wearing a Buffalo Soldiers t-shirt isn't glorifying genocide, one fan argued on X. It's a nod to a deeply complex and painful part of Black history, one that involves survival, contradiction and power structures that never had our best interest in mind. This is the heart of the debate. How do we confront history that contains both oppression and survival? The Buffalo Soldiers were formerly enslaved men. Men who fought for a nation that had denied their humanity. And yet they, too, became instruments of American imperialism. They fought in the Spanish-American War. In World War I. In World War II. They faced systemic racism in the very army they served. They became some of the country's first park rangers, guarding America's early national parks and protecting its wildlife. They forged roads through wilderness and maintained law and order in a land that was not always theirs to claim. And yet, in doing so, they contributed to the violent removal of indigenous peoples and helped secure a westward expansion built on land theft. Riche Richardson, a professor at Cornell University, called for a nuanced view. American history is very charged, to be sure, she said. She urged people to recognize the contradictions. African Americans contributed greatly to the nation, even as they sometimes served systems of injustice. Richardson believes Beyoncé's choice is connected to her Texas roots, to her understanding of the Southwest and its tangled cultural legacy. Her latest album, Cowboy Carter, reclaims the Black roots of country music. Her tour, the Rodeo Chitlin circuit, revives the forgotten spaces where Black performers once found refuge and community. In this context, the Buffalo Soldiers t-shirt becomes more than a costume. It becomes a conversation starter. It reminds us that the story of African Americans in the West is not simply one of victimhood or villainy, but of struggle, survival, and contradiction. The soldiers fought for a nation that enslaved their ancestors. They fought against other oppressed peoples. They lived in a system they did not create but could not escape. This is the uncomfortable truth of American history. Marginalized people have sometimes been placed in opposition to one another by forces of power and control. Richardson cautioned against rushing to judge Beyoncé's intent. My inclination is not to think the worst of Beyoncé precisely because of her investments and critical thinking, she said. Beyoncé has used her platform to spotlight injustice, empower Black artists, and challenge systems that exclude marginalized voices. She has performed at events honoring African American history. She has spoken up on issues of race, gender, and power. She has used fashion, music, and performance as tools of education and reflection. Richardson reminds us that a single image cannot capture the fullness of an artist's message. She's consistently compassionate. I think people should not draw conclusions, especially without adequate information, Richardson said. A shirt is a symbol, but its meaning is shaped by context, by conversation, and by the artist's larger body of work. And Beyoncé's work is expansive. She has redefined the boundaries of pop, R&B, hip-hop, and now country music. Her Cowboy Carter project places black country artists center stage in a genre that long erased their contributions. She challenges the music industry's racial and cultural biases. She brings the black cowboy, the black frontiersman, and the black soldier back into the American imagination. Beyoncé's performance in Paris wasn't just a concert. It was a celebration of black history, in all its beauty and its contradictions. It was a reminder that Juneteenth, a holiday marking the end of slavery, also exists within a nation built on the displacement of native peoples. These truths exist together, and art has the power to hold them in tension. The Buffalo Soldiers t-shirt sparked debate, but it also sparked dialogue. It asked uncomfortable questions. Can you honor your ancestors without ignoring their flaws? Can you celebrate survival without glorifying violence? Can an artist reflect history without endorsing every part of it? For Beyoncé, performance has never been about perfection. It's about provocation. It's about making us look again, think again, and feel the weight of history on our backs. As Richardson put it, this moment is a teaching moment. One that invites us to explore history's complexity, not erase it. Beyoncé's legacy is not built on silence. It is built on boldness, even when it stirs controversy. She challenges us to hold two truths at once. That black soldiers fought heroically, and that their service sometimes advanced unjust causes. That survival in an oppressive system doesn't always allow for perfect choices. That identity, like history, is layered, messy, and unfinished. And perhaps that's what Beyoncé was inviting us to see on that Paris stage. Not just a shirt, but a story. Not just a soldier, but a human being caught in history's tide. And not just a performer, but a storyteller wrestling with the past.